The stars looked cold and distant through the window of the new horizon. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the endless black space ahead. His ship was small compared to the giant warships that ruled the galaxy, but it was home. To him and his crew, "Captain, we're getting close to the target system," said Lisa Barnes from the pilot's seat. She was a good pilot, one of the best Earth had trained. Her hands moved smoothly over the controls as she guided the ship through space. Jake nodded and walked over to look at the star charts. "Any signs of life in this system, Kevin?" Kevin Rodriguez looked up from his communication station. His job was to listen for any signals from other ships or planets. "Nothing yet, Captain. It's quiet out here." Peter Yang was busy checking the ship's engines in the back. He was the engineer, the one who kept everything working. The New Horizon was an exploration ship, built to find new worlds and map unknown space. Earth had sent them out here to learn what was beyond their home system. For 3 years, humanity had been reaching out into space. They had found empty planets and dead stars, but no other intelligent life. Some people on Earth were starting to think humans were alone in the universe. Jake hoped they were wrong. Finding other thinking beings would change everything for humanity. Captain Lisa called out, "I'm picking up something strange on the sensors." Jake hurried back to her station. On the screen, he could see a large object moving toward them. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built, dark and shaped like a giant sword cutting through space. "That's a ship," Peter said, coming up from the engine room. "But it's huge, way bigger than ours." Kevin's station started making noise. Lights flashed red and yellow. "Captain, they're scanning us. Our technology is way more advanced than ours." Jake felt his heart beat faster, but he kept his voice calm. "Try to contact them, Kevin. Send them a peaceful greeting." Kevin worked at his controls, sending out radio signals in different languages. Math symbols, too, since numbers were supposed to be universal. But there was no answer from the big ship. "They're not responding, Captain," Kevin said. "But they're getting closer." The alien ship was indeed moving toward them. It was painted black, with red markings that looked like scars. Strange lights pulsed along its sides. As it came closer, Jake could see that it was covered in what looked like armor plating. "Captain, they're locking some kind of beam onto us," Lisa said, her voice tight with worry. Jake could feel the ship shake as invisible forces grabbed hold of the New Horizon. The engines made a whining sound as they tried to break free, but it was no use. Whatever had them was too strong. "They're pulling us toward their ship," Peter said, checking his instruments. "I can't break us free." Through the window, Jake could see the alien ship getting bigger and bigger. Up close, it looked even more frightening. The surface was covered in spikes and sharp edges. Weapon ports were visible along the sides, each one big enough to destroy their little ship with one shot. "Kevin, keep trying to contact them," Jake ordered. "Tell them we come in peace." But Kevin shook his head. "They're not listening, Captain. I don't think they care what we want to say." The New Horizon was pulled into a huge opening in the side of the alien ship. As they passed through, Jake could see that the walls were made of some kind of metal he had never seen before. Everything looked built for war. Their ship landed with a heavy thud on a metal floor. Through the windows, they could see movement in the shadows. Large shapes were walking toward their ship. "What do we do, Captain?" Lisa asked. Jake looked at his crew. They were scared, but they trusted him. He'd led them through dangerous situations before, though nothing like this. "We wait and see what they want," Jake said. "But everyone stay alert." I didn't remember our training. The shapes outside were getting clearer now. They were tall, much taller than humans. They walked on 2 legs like people, but their bodies were covered in what looked like natural armor. Their heads were long and narrow, with sharp teeth visible, even from a distance. "They look like reptiles," Peter whispered. "Big, scary reptiles." One of the creatures was clearly the leader. It was bigger than the others and wore more decorations. Red symbols were painted on its armor. When it moved, the other creatures followed. The leader stopped in front of their ship and made a sound that was like rocks grinding together. The other creatures lined up behind it, carrying weapons that hummed with energy. "They want us to come out," Kevin said, reading the signals his equipment was picking up. "They're not asking nicely." Jake took a deep breath. This was the moment that would decide everything. He could surrender and hope these creatures were reasonable. Or he could try to fight beings that were clearly much stronger than humans. But as he looked at his crew, Jake remembered something his grandfather had told him. His grandfather had been a soldier in the old wars on Earth. He had said that when someone tries to make you bow down, you have two choices. You can kneel, or you can stand up and show them what you're made of. "Open the airlock, Lisa," Jake said quietly. The door of their ship opened with a hiss. Jake walked out first with his crew behind him. The alien creatures were even bigger up close, at least 8 feet tall. Their skin looked like it was made of thick scales, and their claws could probably cut through metal. The leader stepped forward and made more grinding sounds. When Jake didn't respond, it pointed one clawed finger at the ground in front of Jake's feet. Jake understood the message. This creature wanted him to kneel down and surrender. It expected him to show that humans were weak and afraid. But Jake Morrison had never knelt to anyone in his life, and he wasn't going to start now. He looked up at the towering alien and said in a clear, steady voice, "What makes you think we're going to give up?" The alien leader's eyes went wide with surprise. Behind it, the other creatures made sounds of confusion. In all their years of conquering other species, no one had ever asked that question before. The leader made a sound that Jake realized was laughter. It was not a nice sound. The creatures seemed to think Jake's words were funny, like a mouse threatening a cat, but Jake didn't back down, stood straight and tall, even though the alien towered over him. His crew stood with him, scared but refusing to run. The alien leader raised one massive clawed hand, and Jake could see that his choice had been made. This creature was going to try to break him, to show him that resistance was useless. But as the claw came down toward him, Jake felt something wake up inside his chest. It was something that had been sleeping there, something that his ancestors had carried through every war and every struggle in human history. It was the part of him that refused to give up, no matter what. The alien's clawed hand hit Jake like a hammer. The blow sent him flying backward across the metal floor. Pain exploded through his head as blood started flowing from his nose. For a moment, everything went dark. The alien leader made that grinding laugh sound again. It had hit Jake with just a casual swing, the kind of hit it used to discipline its own soldiers. Every other species they had met would be dead or unconscious from such a blow. But Jake Morrison was not dead, and he was not unconscious. He rolled over on the cold metal floor and pushed himself up to his hands and knees. Blood dripped from his face onto the alien ship's deck. His head was spinning, but his mind was clear. The alien had hit him to show dominance, to prove that humans were weak. The alien leader looked confused. This small, soft-skinned creature should not still be moving. It stepped closer to Jake, making more of those grinding sounds. The other aliens moved in too, their weapons ready. Jake wiped the blood from his face with the back of his hand. Then, he did something that no conquered species had ever done in the history of the alien empire. He looked up at the towering creature that had struck him, and he smiled. "Is that all you've got?" Jake said. The alien leader stopped making sounds. Its yellow eyes went wide. Behind it, the other aliens made noises of shock and confusion. No creature had ever spoken to them like this after being struck down. Jake slowly got to his feet. Was much smaller than the aliens, but something about the way he stood made him seem dangerous. His eyes were cold and hard, like pieces of steel, Lisa Jake said quietly, not taking his eyes off the alien leader. "When I move, hit the gravity controls." Lisa Barnes understood immediately. She had been a military pilot before joining the exploration mission. She knew what Jake was planning, and it was crazy. But crazy was sometimes the only option. The alien leader reached for Jake again, but this time, Jake was ready. As the massive clawed hand came down, Jake threw himself sideways. At the same moment, Lisa's hands flew over the ship's control panel. The artificial gravity in the alien ship's docking bay suddenly reversed. All the aliens, who were much heavier than humans, were pulled upward, toward the ceiling. They roared in surprise and anger as they crashed into the metal overhead. But the humans, who were lighter and had been expecting the change, managed to grab onto pieces of their ship and hold on. Jake pulled himself toward the open airlock where Peter Yang was standing. "Peter, I need something sharp," Jake shouted over the noise of the confused aliens. Peter reached into his toolkit and pulled out a plasma cutter, a tool they used for cutting through metal during repairs. He threw it to Jake, who caught it with one hand. The alien leader had managed to grab onto a support beam and was pulling itself down toward the floor. Its yellow eyes were full of rage now. It made sounds that were clearly threats and curses. Jake activated the plasma cutter. The blue energy beam hummed to life in his hands. The alien leader dropped to the floor and started moving toward him, but it was moving more carefully now. Something in Jake's eyes had changed, and the alien could sense it. "Kevin," Jake called out, "send out a distress signal. Tell them what's happening here." Kevin Rodriguez was already working at his communication station, his fingers flying over the controls. "Signal sent, Captain. If anyone's listening, they'll know we're in trouble." The alien leader charged at Jake, moving faster than anything that big should be able to move. Its claws were extended, ready to tear the human apart. But Jake had grown up in the rough parts of Earth's cities. He knew how to fight when he was owed Mapseed, instead of running or trying to block the attack. Jake dove forward and rolled under the alien's charge. As he came up behind the creature, he drove the plasma cutter deep into the gap. Between two armor plates on the alien's back, the alien leader let out a roar of pain and shock that echoed through the entire ship. It spun around, trying to reach the burning wound on its back. Its yellow eyes were no longer full of confidence. For the first time in its life, it was looking at a creature smaller than itself with something like respect. But Jake wasn't done. The plasma cutter had burned out from the attack, but Peter was already throwing him another tool. Lisa had reset the gravity to normal, and now she was moving toward one of the fallen alien weapons. "Peter, can you get to the ship's engine?" Jake asked, while dodging another swipe from the injured alien leader. "Dada." "I think so, Captain," Peter replied. "What do you want me to do?" "Overload the fuel cells. We're going down, we're taking some of them with us." Peter's eyes went wide, but he nodded. That was a suicide move, but it would also destroy a good part of the alien ship. He started running toward the New Horizons engine room. The other aliens had recovered from the gravity. Stricken were moving toward the humans. But something had changed in the way they moved. They were being more careful, more respectful. These soft-skinned creatures were not acting like prey animals. Lisa had picked up one of the alien weapons. It was heavy and designed for much larger hands, but she managed to figure out how to fire it. The energy beam shot out and hit one of the approaching aliens in the chest, sending it flying backward. Kevin had finished sending the distress signal and was now helping Lisa with the weapons. He wasn't a fighter, but he was learning fast. When one of the aliens got too close, he grabbed a metal tool and swung it as hard as he could at the creature's knee joint. The alien went down with a crash, and Kevin jumped back, surprised that his attack had worked. "These things aren't invincible," he said with wonder in his voice. Jake was still fighting the alien leader. The creature was wounded, but still very dangerous. It was also learning that this human was not like any enemy it had faced before. Jake didn't fight with brute strength. He used speed, timing, and intelligence. When the alien swung its massive fist, Jake wasn't there to be hit. When it tried to grab him, he slipped away like water. Every few seconds, Jake would find another gap in the creature's armor and strike with whatever weapon he could find. Captain Peter's voice came over the ship's communication system. "Engine overload in 60 seconds. We need to get out of here." But there was nowhere to run. They were trapped inside the alien ship, surrounded by enemies who were slowly learning how to fight these strange new creatures. That's when they heard it. A sound that made the aliens stop fighting and look up at the ceiling. It was the sound of human ships dropping out of hyperspace. Kevin's distress signal had been received, and the response was not what the aliens had expected. Admiral Susan Carter had been leading a patrol fleet not far from this system. When she received Kevin's message about first contact gone wrong, she didn't send diplomats or negotiators. She sent warships. The alien ship shook as human weapons struck its hull. Through the communication system, they could hear an Earth voice, speaking in clear, simple words. "Alien vessel, You have 60 seconds to release our people unharmed. If you do not comply, we will destroy your ship." The alien leader looked up at the ceiling, then back at Jake. Its yellow eyes were full of confusion and something that might have been fear. No species had ever threatened the Empire before. Number one had ever come to rescue prisoners. Jake wiped more blood from his face and smiled again. "I told you we wouldn't give up," he said, "and we never abandon our own." The alien ship shook again, harder this time. Admiral Carter was not bluffing. 4. The first time in their history, the aliens were learning what it felt like to be outgunned. Admiral Susan Carter stood on the bridge of the Earth's battleship Defiance, watching the alien vessel through the main screen. She was a veteran of Earth's Space Navy, trained in tactics and strategy that came from hundreds of years of human warfare. "Admiral, the alien ship is not responding to our warning," reported Commander Matt Ryan from the weapons station. "Should we fire a warning shot?" Admiral Carter looked at the timer counting down on her screen. 55 seconds left. Her jaw was set in a hard line. "No warning shots, Commander. These aliens took our people. They need to learn that attacking humans has consequences." The alien ship was massive, easily 10 times the size of the Defiance. But Admiral Carter had brought 5 Earth warships with her, and she knew something the aliens didn't know yet. Humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years, had learned how to win against bigger enemies. "All ships prepare for coordinated attack pattern Delta," she ordered. "Target their weapon systems first, then their engines." Inside the alien ship, Jake Morrison could hear the sounds of battle stations being called. The aliens around him were looking nervous for the first time. Their leader was speaking rapidly into a communication device, probably calling for orders. "Peter, how long until the engine overload?" Jake asked. 30 seconds, Captain," Peter's voice came back. "But if those human ships are out there, maybe we don't need to blow ourselves up." Jake looked around at the aliens surrounding them. They were still dangerous, still armed, but something had changed. They were listening to the sounds of human weapons hitting their ship's hull. They didn't like what they were hearing. The alien leader finished his communication and looked back at Jake. It made some grinding sounds that were clearly angry. But Jake could see uncertainty in its yellow eyes. "Your friends will not save you," the alien said in broken English. It had learned some human language from listening to their communications. "We are the strongest in the galaxy. We have conquered 300 worlds." Jake wiped blood from his split lip and laughed. 300 worlds of people who gave up when you showed up. But you've never fought humans before." Outside, Admiral Carter was watching her attack plan unfold perfectly. The human ships moved in formation, each one targeting a different part of the alien vessel. When they fired, it was all at once, a coordinated strike that hit the alien ship. From 5 directions, the alien warship's shields flared and sparked under the assault. On the alien bridge, War Commander Vexmar was staring at his tactical displays in disbelief. These human ships were small, but they fought like a pack of wolves, working together with precision he had never seen before. War Commander, his tactical officer, reported, "Their weapons are more advanced than we expected. Our shields are down to 60%. Vexmar snarled. "Return fire! Show these creatures the power of the Empire!" The alien ship's massive weapons turned toward the human fleet and fired. Beams of red energy lanced out across space, targeting the largest human ship. But the human ships didn't just sit there and take the hit. They scattered like leaves in the wind, each one moving in a different direction. The alien weapons designed to fight enemies who stood still and traded shots missed their targets completely. "Impossible," Vexmar muttered. "No species fights like this." Admiral Carter smiled grimly as she watched the alien weapons fire uselessly into empty space. "All ships, execute pattern Gamma. Let's show them how Earth pilots really fight." The human ships came together again, but this time they were moving faster and in a complex weaving pattern. As they closed in on the alien vessel, they fired again, but from different angles than before. Inside the alien ship, Jake felt the deck shake under his feet. The lights flickered, and he could hear the sound of damaged systems sparking and failing. Captain Peter called out, "I'm reading massive damage to their ship. Whatever our people are doing out there, it's working." The alien leader was getting reports from his own people now, and Jake could see panic starting to show in its movements. This was not how battles were supposed to go. Enemies were supposed to surrender when they saw the might of the Empire. "Your ships will be destroyed," the alien leader said to Jake, but its voice didn't sound as confident as before. "We have weapons you cannot imagine." Jake smiled, and this time it was not a pleasant smile. "Maybe, but you've made one big mistake." "What mistake?" the alien demanded. "You thought we would fight like all those other species you conquered. You thought we would stand still and let you beat us. But humans learned a long time ago that when someone bigger tries to push you around, you don't try to push back harder. You move faster, hit smarter, and never give up." The alien ship shook again. As another human attack struck home, this time, the lights went out completely for several seconds before emergency power kicked in. On the alien bridge, War Commander Vexmar was receiving reports that made no sense to him. The human ships were everywhere at once, appearing from one direction and then vanishing before his weapons could lock on. Every time his gunners thought they had a target, the humans had already moved somewhere else. "Sir, we're losing power to the main engines," his engineer reported. "These humans, they're not targeting our weapons. They're targeting our ability to move and fight." Vexmar's claws dug into his command chair. "That's impossible. No species. Is that smart in battle?" But the evidence was right in front of him. The humans weren't just firing randomly. Every shot was carefully aimed at a specific part of his ship, designed to disable rather than destroy. They were taking his ship apart piece by piece. Admiral Carter was watching the battle with the eye of someone who had studied war her entire life. The alien ship was bigger and more heavily armed, but it fought like all bullies fought. It expected its enemies to be afraid and to make mistakes. "Commander Ryan," she said, "prepare boarding parties. We're going to get our people back." "Admiral, their ship is still heavily armed," Matt Ryan pointed out. "A boarding action could be very costly." Admiral Carter's eyes were hard as steel. "Those aliens made a choice when they took our people. Now they get to live with the consequences. Prepare the boarding parties." Inside the alien ship, Jake was still facing off with the alien leader when new alarms started going off. The alien looked around in confusion as reports came in from all over the ship. "What's happening?" Jake asked Kevin, who was monitoring the alien communications. "I think our people are boarding their ship," Kevin said with excitement in his voice. "The aliens are calling for all warriors to repel boarders." The alien leader roared in fury and frustration. This was not how conquest was supposed to work. The strong were supposed to dominate the weak. But these humans seemed to get stronger when they were threatened. Jake saw his opportunity. While the alien was distracted by the reports of boarding actions, Jake moved quickly. He had spotted another plasma cutter that had fallen from Peter's toolkit during the fighting. He grabbed the tool and activated it in one smooth motion. The alien leader spun around just in time to see Jake driving the energy beam toward the control panel that operated the tractor beam holding their ship. "Oh!" the alien shouted, but it was too late. Jake's plasma cutter sliced through the control panel in a shower of sparks. The tractor beam holding the New Horizon flickered and died. "Lisa," Jake shouted, "get us out of here." Lisa Barnes was already moving toward their ship's controls. As soon as she felt the tractor beam release, she fired up the engines and sent the New Horizon racing toward the opening of the alien docking bay. The alien leader made one last desperate lunge for Jake, but Peter and Kevin were there to help. Peter swung a heavy wrench at the alien's knee while Kevin threw himself at the creature's legs. The alien went down in a tangle of limbs, and Jake ran for their ship. Behind him, he could hear the sounds of human Marines fighting their way through the alien vessel's corridors as the New Horizon burst out of the alien ship and into open space. They could see the human fleet surrounding the crippled alien vessel. Admiral Carter's voice came over the communication system, clear and strong. "This is Admiral Carter to all alien forces. Surrender now, or we will destroy your ship. You have 30 seconds to decide." Jake slumped into his captain's chair, exhausted but alive. Around him, his crew was checking for injuries and damage. They had survived their first encounter with the galaxy's most feared predators, but more importantly, They had done something no other species had ever done before. They had fought back and won, and out in space. The alien war commander was staring at his tactical displays and beginning to understand a terrible truth. For the first time in their empire's history, they had met someone who might actually be more dangerous than they were. The news traveled fast across the alien empire. Supreme Warlord Kethfer sat on his throne of black metal, reading reports that made no sense to him. His yellow eyes scanned the data again and again, but the words remained the same. "Tell me, again, what happened at the Outer Rim?" Kethfer said to his intelligence officer. War Prime Zalgan stepped forward, his armor scarred from many battles. "My lord, our forces encountered a new species called humans. When we attempted to capture their ship for inspection, they resisted." Resisted? Kethfer's voice was like grinding stone. "Define resistance." "They fought back, my lord. Not just fought back, but won." War Commander Veximar's entire battle group was forced to retreat. The throne room fell silent. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever made the Empire retreat. The very concept was foreign to their understanding of how the universe worked. Kethfer stood up from his throne, his massive form casting shadows across the room. "Bring me everything we know about these humans." Over the next few hours, intelligence reports flooded in from across the Empire. Each one painted a picture that was more disturbing than the last. The humans came from a small blue world called Earth, where they had spent thousands of years fighting wars against each other. "Look at this," War Prime Zolgan said, projecting images onto the wall. "Their entire history is nothing but conflict. War after war, century after century. Instead of weakening them, it has made them into something we have never seen before." The images showed human battles throughout history, soldiers charging into machine gun fire, pilots flying damaged planes into enemy ships, cities that refused to surrender even when surrounded and starving. "They call it the human spirit," reported Warren Alice Dalmore, who had been studying the captured data. "It appears to be some kind of psychological trait that makes them stronger when facing superior force." Kethfer studied the images with growing unease. "Have any of our subject species displayed this trait?" "None, my lord. When we demonstrate our superior strength, all previous species have submitted. But humans seem to respond to threats by becoming more dangerous." Another report came in from the border regions. Colonel Matt Ryan had led a human attack on a minor alien outpost. The results were devastating. The human forces had used tactics the aliens had never seen before, coordinating their attacks with precision that seemed impossible. "They fight as one mind," the surviving alien commander reported, "but each warrior thinks for himself. When their plans change, they all change together. When one falls, another takes his place without pause." Dr. Amanda White had been captured. During that battle, aliens brought her before their council, expecting to see the usual fear and submission they had witnessed from hundreds of other species. Instead, Dr. White studied them with scientific curiosity. She took notes on their appearance and behavior, asking questions about their culture and technology. When they demanded to know why humans refused to surrender, she gave them an answer that chilled them to their core. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Dr. White said calmly. "Humans have been fighting for survival since we first stood upright. Every war, every struggle, every defeat has taught us something new about how to survive. We don't give up because giving up means death, and we are very good at staying alive." The alien council exchanged worried looks, as human female showed no fear, even though she was surrounded by beings who could kill her with a casual swipe of their claws. "Your species will submit, War Prime," Zul'Ghan declared. "All species submit to superior force." Dr. White smiled, and her smile was not afraid. "You're thinking about this wrong. Yeah, you see humans as just another species to conquer. But we're not. We're the species that conquered our own world. We're the species that turned every challenge into a reason to become stronger." She gestured to the alien warriors around her. "You conquered other species because you were born stronger and more aggressive. But we conquered ourselves by becoming smarter, more adaptable, and more determined. When you threaten us, you're not just threatening another prey species. You're threatening the apex predators of Earth." The word sent a chill through the alien council. "Apex predators. On every world they had conquered, there had been apex predators, the strongest and most dangerous creatures on the planet. The aliens had always assumed they themselves were the apex predators of the galaxy. But what if they were wrong? Kept coming in from across the frontier, human ships were appearing everywhere, and they all fought with the same terrifying efficiency. They didn't just defend themselves, they went on the attack. Jake Morrison had become something of a legend. Among human forces, his survival and resistance had inspired others to fight back with equal determination. Stories spread of the captain who had looked into the face of the galaxy's most feared warrior and asked, "What makes you think we're going to give up?" Admiral Carter was coordinating the human response from her flagship. She had studied the alien tactics and found them predictable. They relied on fear and overwhelming force, but they had never learned to adapt when those tactics failed. "They're like bullies," she explained to her staff officers. "They're used to people backing down when they show their strength, but when someone fights back, they don't know what to do." The human fleet was growing as more ships arrived from Earth. Word had spread that humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and that the first aliens they had met were hostile. Earth's response was swift and decisive. Back on the alien homeworld, Supreme Warlord Kethfer was facing something he had never experienced before: doubt. For the first time in his life, he was wondering if the Empire could lose a war. "My Lord War Prime Zul'Ghan reported, we have lost contact with 3 more outposts. Human forces are advancing on multiple fronts." "How is this possible?" Kethfer demanded. "We outnumber them 1,000 to 1. Numbers do not seem to matter to them, my lord. They fight as if each battle is for the survival of their entire species. Our warriors are beginning to show reluctance to engage them." Kethfer's claws scraped against his throne. Reluctance. Fear. These were words that had never been spoken in connection with his warriors before. "What do our prisoners tell us about their weaknesses?" War Prime Zul'Ghan hesitated. "The human female, Dr. White, has been most cooperative in sharing information. But the data she provides is ... disturbing." "Explain." "She says that humans are actually holding back, that their current military response is what they call a police action. She claims that if we continue this conflict, we will see what humans are really capable of when they declare total war." The throne room fell silent again. Kethfer could not imagine anything more dangerous than what they had already seen. But the human's words carried a certainty that was terrifying. "She also said something else, my lord. She said that humans have a saying, 'You can kill a human, but you cannot defeat humanity.' She explained that every human who dies fighting us makes the others more determined to destroy us completely." Kethfer stood up and walked to the great window that looked out over his capital city. For 300 years, his empire had grown and conquered without ever facing a real challenge. They had become the apex predators of the galaxy through strength and ruthlessness. But now they had encountered something that challenged their very understanding of what it meant to be the strongest. They had met a species that grew stronger under pressure, that treated superior force as a challenge rather than a reason to surrender. "My Lord Zul'Ghan said quietly, there is something else. Our intelligence suggests that the humans have not yet committed their full military strength to this conflict. They are treating this as a border skirmish, not a real war." Kethfer turned back to his council, and for the first time in his long life, he felt something he had never experienced before. It started as a small, cold sensation in his chest and slowly spread through his entire body. Fear. The galaxy's apex predators were afraid, and somewhere in space, aboard the New Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison was planning humanity's next move. He had looked into the face of the Empire's greatest warrior and refused to kneel. Now he was going to show them what humans were really capable of when they stopped holding back. The aliens had made a mistake when they chose to threaten humanity. They had awakened something that had been sleeping in the depths of space. Something that had conquered an entire world through determination and intelligence. They had awakened the human spirit. It was angry. The final battle began at the alien stronghold of Vexthu Prime, the fortress world that guarded the heart of their empire. Commander Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, now refitted as a command vessel, watching the massive alien defenses through the main screen. Admiral Carter, this is Commander Morrison, Jake. Spoke into his communications system. We're in position for the final assault. Admiral Carter's voice came back strong and clear. Copy that, Commander. Colonel Ryan's ground forces are ready. Dr. White's intelligence about their defense systems has been invaluable, bringing with her detailed information about alien technology and tactics. More importantly, she had confirmed what the humans had already suspected. The aliens were fighting scared now. All human forces, this is Admiral Carter, came the announcement across all ships. Today we end this war. Not through conquest, but by showing these aliens that some lines should never be crossed. When they took our people, they chose this path. The alien defenses around Vex-2 Prime were massive. Weapon platforms orbited the planet like deadly moons. Shield generators protected the surface from orbital bombardment. It was the most heavily defended world in alien space, but the humans had learned something important during their months of fighting. The aliens were predictable. They relied on overwhelming force and expected their enemies to be intimidated. They had never faced an enemy that used their own strength against them. Jake, Lisa Barnes said from the pilot's seat, sensors show at least 50 alien warships. Defending the planet, we're outnumbered 5-1. Jake smiled. It was the same smile he had worn when facing down the alien leader in their first encounter. Good odds for us then. Remember, we don't have to destroy them all. We just have to convince them that continuing this fight will cost more than they're willing to pay. The human fleet moved toward the alien defenses in a formation that looked random but was actually carefully planned. Each ship had a specific target and a specific role to play. When the aliens opened fire with their massive weapons, the human ships scattered like a school of fish avoiding a shark. But unlike fish, the humans came back. Admiral Carter watched the battle unfold from the bridge of the Defiance. The alien weapons were powerful, but they were designed to fight enemies who stood still and traded shots. Against human ships that moved constantly and attacked from unexpected angles, they were almost useless. Commander Ryan, she called to the Marine. Officer, begin the landing operation. Colonel Matt Ryan's voice came back tense with excitement. Yes, ma'am. Marines are launching now. The human landing craft were small and fast, designed to slip between the alien orbital defenses. As they raced toward the planet's surface, the alien defenders tried to target them. The landing craft moved too quickly and unpredictably. On the alien command ship, Supreme Warlord Kethver watched the human attack with growing despair. Everything his forces did, the humans had an answer for. Every tactic they tried, the humans countered with something unexpected. My Lord War Prime Zolgan reported, the humans have broken through our outer defenses. Their ground forces are landing on the northern continent. Send everything we have, Kethver ordered. Stop them at any cost. But even as he gave the order, Kethver knew it was useless. The humans fought with a determination that his warriors could not match. More importantly, they fought smart. Where his forces relied on individual strength, the humans worked together like parts of a single machine. On the planet's surface, Colonel Ryan led his Marines through the alien city. The fighting was fierce, but the humans had learned how to deal with alien tactics. When the aliens charged with overwhelming force, the humans scattered and regrouped. When the aliens tried to use their superior numbers, the humans used the city's own buildings as weapons. Colonel, came a report from Sergeant Billy Carter. We've secured the primary shield generator. Ready to bring it down on your order. Ryan looked around at his Marines. They were tired and bloodied, but their eyes were still bright with determination. They had come a long way from the species that had once wondered if they were alone in the universe. Bring it down, Sergeant. The shield generator exploded in a tower of flame that could be seen from orbit. Admiral Carter watched the explosion through her tactical display and nodded with satisfaction. All ships, the planetary shields, are down. Begin precision strikes on military targets only. Remember, we're here to end a war, not commit genocide. The human warships moved in closer to the planet. their weapons targeting alien military installations with surgical precision. They could have destroyed the entire world, but they chose not to. That restraint was something the aliens had never seen before in warfare. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison was leading a special mission to the Alien Command Center. His team included Peter Yang, Kevin Rodriguez, and Lisa Barnes, the same crew that had survived their first encounter with the Empire. It's just like old times, Peter said as they moved through the alien corridors. Except this time, we're not the ones being captured, Kevin replied. They reached the command center to find Supreme Warlord Kethfer waiting for them. The alien ruler was massive, even larger than the warriors they had fought before. His yellow eyes burned with fury and something else, fear. "So you are the human who started this war," Kethfer said in perfect English. Jake stepped forward, his team behind him. It was still much smaller than the alien leader, but he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had already won. "I didn't start anything," Jake said calmly. "Your people did when they decided to capture and threaten us. All I did was refuse to kneel." Kethfer snarled and drew a massive sword from his side. "Then you will die as you live, standing on your feet." The alien ruler charged at Jake with a speed that was terrifying for something so large. But Jake had been fighting aliens for months now. He had learned their patterns, their weaknesses, their overconfidence. As Kethfer's sword came down, Jake rolled to the side and came up with a plasma rifle in his hands. The aliens spun around for another attack, but Jake was already moving again. "Still don't understand?" Jake said as he dodged another massive swing. "This isn't about who's stronger or faster. This is about who refuses to give up." Kethfer was physically superior in every way, but Jake had something the alien leader couldn't match: the accumulated wisdom of humanity's long history of warfare, and an unbreakable will to protect his species. The duel continued for long minutes, with Kethfer's strength slowly wearing down against Jake's determination. Finally, the alien leader stumbled, exhausted by his efforts to catch an enemy who simply would not stop moving. Jake could have killed him then. The plasma rifle was aimed at Kethfer's head, and one shot would end the life of the galaxy's most feared ruler. But Jake didn't fire. "It's over," Jake said simply. "Your empire is finished. It's not because we destroyed it, but because we showed your people that there are beings in this galaxy who will fight back. Once that seed is planted, it will grow." Kethfer looked up at the small human who had defeated him and finally understood the truth. Humans were not just another species to be conquered. They were something entirely new in the galaxy, a people who became stronger when threatened, who turned every challenge into a reason to grow more dangerous. "What do you want from us?" Kethfer asked, his voice heavy with defeat. "Peace, Jake," said. "Real peace. Not the peace of conquest, but the peace of equals. Your people can choose to join the galaxy as partners, or they can continue to fight and discover just how dangerous humans can be when we stop holding back." The message went out across the Empire within hours. Supreme Warlord Kethfer himself announced the end of hostilities and the beginning of negotiations for a permanent peace treaty. Some alien commanders tried to continue fighting, but their hearts were no longer in it. Word had spread through their ranks that the humans were not like other species. They were predators who had learned to hunt in packs, who grew stronger under pressure, who would never stop fighting until victory was achieved. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the alien fleet withdraw from human space. His crew was with him, changed by their experiences, but still the same people who had first encountered the Empire months ago. "So what happens now, Captain?" Lisa asked. Jake smiled and looked out at the stars. "Now we explore. We meet new species and show them that the galaxy doesn't have to be ruled by fear anymore. We prove that intelligence and determination can triumph over brute force." "And if we meet more aliens like these?" Peter asked. Jake's smile became harder, more like the expression he had worn when facing down his first alien captor. "Then we remind them that humans have a saying: you can kill a human, but you cannot defeat humanity. And we show them what that really means." Admiral Carter's voice came over the communication system. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Carter. The war is over. We're going home." But they weren't just going home as the same species that had left Earth. They were returning as something new. The galaxy's apex predators, not through cruelty or conquest, but through an unbreakable spirit that refused to be dominated, the aliens, had learned something that would change the galaxy forever. There was something more dangerous than being unable to feel fear. It was encountering a species that transformed fear into fury, and fury into an unstoppable will to survive and protect their own. Humanity had done more than fight back. They had become legends. And across the galaxy, other species who had lived under alien rule for centuries began to whisper a new word: hope. The humans had shown them that even the strongest predator could be defeated by those who refused to give up, and that lesson would echo through the stars for generations to come.